Hi everybody, this is Carrie from Macmillan Library and we are here for another Let's Make Lunch. And on today's Let's Make Lunch, we are making hearty veggie soup. Doesn't that sound good for a nice cold winter day? So soup is it's just an amazing thing. I make soup almost every week during the winter. And soup, it has been around they found evidence of soup existing as far back as 20,000 BC. That's a very long time ago. Soup is, I'm sure you've probably had some soup before. It's primarily a liquid food, and it's usually served warm or hot, but there are a few cold soups out there, and even some fruit or dessert soups, which are very often served cold. There is a slight difference between a soup and a stew. Stews tend to be thicker, a little more heavy. Soups tend to be a little bit more liquid than a stew, but sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference. So, and it depends on how you make it. So some people have a recipe that they might make a little bit more thick, like stew, and other people might make it a completely different way. So, the French are, big culinary kings of the world, and so many of the terms that we use for soup are actually come from the French. So I'm just going to go over a couple of those with you right now. So if you have a clear soup, it is called a consomme, and that's like a broth kind of soup. A puree is a vegetable soup that is thickened with starch. So it could be cornstarch, some sort of flour, there's a bunch of different starches you could use to thicken it. A bisque is made from pureed shellfish or vegetables, and it is thickened with cream. And a veloute is a soup that is thickened with eggs, butter, and cream. So, kind of interesting. Different French terms for different types of soup. There are, of course, a lot of different canned soups when you go to the grocery store. There are two main varieties of canned soup. You have condensed canned soup and ready-to-eat canned soup. The condensed version of soups, some people use them in casseroles and things like that, like a cream of celery or cream of chicken kind of soup. You can use it to make a casserole. If you wanted to make it into soup, you would take the can and open it, and you would have to add some sort of liquid to make it into a soup, and then you heat it. So you either add water or broth or milk or cream or something like that to loosen it up and make it into a soup. A ready-to-eat soup is just what it says. You open the can, you heat it, either on the stovetop or in the microwave, and you eat it. So those are the different main types of soup, and we're going to get started on our recipe. We are ready to start our hearty veggie soup. So I'm going to go over the ingredients with you very quickly. There's quite a few ingredients to this today. And, it's a veggie soup. If you don't like green beans and you like lima beans, you can use lima beans instead. That's fine. If you don't like corn, you could add a different vegetable. It's absolutely up to you, whatever you want. There are some things that you need to put in there, but the veggies can be kind of moved around a little bit. So let's go over the ingredients really quickly. I've got 3 carrots chopped up, peeled and chopped up in this bowl. I've got a rib of celery chopped in this bowl. This is a half of a medium onion chopped. I've got a tablespoon of olive oil, a tablespoon-ish of tomato paste. It's supposed to be a tablespoon, but I like my soup particularly tomatoey, so I added a little extra. We've got a can of diced tomatoes, a cup of frozen peas, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning. I've got 3 russet potatoes that I have peeled and diced. I've got a cup of frozen green beans and a cup of frozen corn. And I've got a container of chicken stock. And I've also got a clove of garlic. So before we get started with our garlic, I'm going to show you how to cut up a clove of garlic here in a minute. But what we're going to do first is we're going to get our oil started on the stove. So I've got my olive oil, and I'm going to turn my oven on, or my stovetop on, to about medium, medium high. We're going to add our oil. And then we're going to come back over to our counter so we can chop up our garlic. So we've got a clove of garlic. How do you get this out? Well, there are gadgets that you can get to help you peel your garlic. What I like to do, and I find it to be quite easy, is I just place my knife squarely over my garlic so it's flat on there, and then I just take my hand and give it one good smack, and there we go. The garlic will pretty much peel itself right there. So it's just as easy as that. Usually comes off pretty quickly. We're going to just snip off the end piece, the where the root was, because that's really not that nice to eat. And then what we're going to do is, in a rocking motion, we're going to keep our fingers, so you have one hand on top and one on the handle. So your hand isn't anywhere near that blade. So in a rocking motion, we're just going to go back and forth until we chop up our garlic. And we may have to move it around with our hand a little bit once in a while, but when you do that, make sure you pull the knife up. So we're just going to keep doing that until the garlic is chopped up nicely. So as you see, garlic is can be a little intimidating because it's a small, I guess it's a vegetable. It's very small, so it's a little bit scary. But if you do it this way, your fingers aren't anywhere near that garlic, which is so nice, right? So we have got our garlic chopped up nicely. And we're just going to get that off the knife there. I'm using the back of the knife to scrape that off, not the front, not the sharp side, the back. All right, so we've got that ready to go in when it is time. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our carrots, celery, and onion, all three together. These in cooking are known as mirepoix. And mirepoix is carrot, celery, and onion. And what you do with those is you put those in first into the hot oil, and you cook them together until they kind of soften and sometimes even brown up a little bit. In Cajun or Creole cooking, their mirepoix is a little bit different. So in Cajun cooking, it's celery, onion, and bell pepper is what they use. So, but in French cooking and in French cuisine, it is celery, onion, and carrots. So we're going to go to our stovetop right now. Our oil is hot, and we are going to add our mirepoix to our pan. Need the celery. Here we go. And we are going to stir that together. And this is going to cook for about 5 minutes or so. You'll start seeing the carrot or the onion kind of become more translucent, so you can almost kind of start seeing through it a little bit, and it'll soften, and the carrots will start to soften, and so will the celery. So we're going to cook that for about 5 minutes. So you see our mirepoix has been cooking now for about 5 minutes, and if you can see, the carrots you can't really see that the carrots are softening up, but they are a little bit, and the onion is definitely softening, and so is the celery. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add our tomato paste and garlic. Tomato paste is notoriously sticky. And we're going to stir that around a little bit, kind of loosen it up, heat it up. And we're going to add a pinch of salt, a good pinch of salt, and some freshly ground pepper. And you can adjust your seasonings a little bit later once you're able to taste it. But we're just going to stir that tomato paste around in there a little bit, break it up, heat it through. Make sure it gets into all of those veggies that are in there. I'm going to stir that around for just about a minute or so. Heat that up. All right. So our next step is going to be to add our potatoes. Green beans and corn. Don't add the peas yet. The peas don't take long to heat up, so we're just going to add the corn and the green beans there. We're going to add our canned diced tomatoes. And our chicken stock. And it does call for 6 cups of stock. This container is about 4 cups. I didn't have another small can, so what I may do is just add a little bit of water extra. And I'll do that in just a minute. And we're going to add our Italian seasoning, like that. Let's stir that all together. That looks really tasty already. Actually, I don't think I'm going to need any more water. That's about as much liquid as I would really need in there. So we are going to bring this to a boil. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. We're going to let this come to a boil, and then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it down. Once it's boiling, we're going to turn it down till it's just simmering. So boiling would be like, crazy, a lot of bubbles, and it's just kind of going nuts. And simmer is just kind of barely bubbling, okay? So we're going to bring it up to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and we're going to keep it on a simmer until the potatoes and carrots are cooked so that they're not hard anymore. So you'll need to test them. So what I do is I'll just spoon out a couple of potatoes or carrots and use a fork and stick it in. And if they're soft, then your soup is done. So we're gonna just leave that cook for a little while, and we will check on it in a little bit. The soup has been simmering away now for a little bit. I would say about 20 to 30 minutes. And I have got a fork here. I just taken some of the veggies out with my spoon, and I'm just going to test the potatoes, and they are fork tender, which is what they need to be, so you can eat them, and the carrots are the same. So the soup is nearly done now. I am going to add our peas at this point, our frozen peas. So we're just going to put those in. Give it a quick stir. Frozen peas honestly don't take very long to heat through, so that's about as much as you need to do. We're going to make sure we turn off our heat, and we are ready to serve our soup. Doesn't that look absolutely delicious? Look at that. Lots of yummy veggies in there. If you wanted to, you could sprinkle some grated Parmesan cheese over the top. Get a nice crusty bread and butter that up and have that with your soup. Or you could make a sandwich, have that with your soup. So that is our hearty veggie soup. I really hope you enjoy this, and it warms you up inside and out during these cold Wisconsin winter months. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time on Let's Make Lunch.